Hello, everyone. Welcome to my podcast hub, where we discuss the economy, the real estate market, and more than just a touch of politics. My name's Chris, and I'm here with co-host Dragos. Today's episode will be further discussing the trade war. Grab yourself a Timmy's, stick around. You won't want to miss this. Hey, everyone. Trade war is an economic conflict often resulting from extreme protectionism, which states raise or implement tariffs, other trade barriers against each other as part of their commercial policies. In response to similar measures imposed by opposing parties. We're here, our neighbors and our closest allies, the US is in a trade war, and they're with us, and not just with us, but the rest of the world. So, Dragos, let's talk about tariffs for a minute. What exactly is the difference between a tariff and a tax?
Chris, that's a great question, and we will answer it in today's podcast. So a tariff is essentially a tax, right, imposed by a government on imported goods. So, for example, if you buy something from another country as a company, let's say you build cars, it's a very good example, and you need an engine, and that engine will come from Japan. So the Canada, if we are in Canada, will impose a tax on the engine. For example, if the engine is worth $1,000 and the tax is 25%, then that engine will cost you, the company, from your pocket $1,250. That's $1,000 plus the 25%.
Really, it is a tax.
It is a big tax. And that tax, then, most of the time, it's passed to the consumers. You understand?
So the company's not going to absorb these taxes then?
Most of the companies will not absorb taxes. Why? Because in most of the areas, the spheres of the economy, the margins are between 10 and 20%. It's very rare. If we go to restaurants, it's probably 8 to 10%. You know, there are other areas that may be 18, 20%, 22%. It's very rare to get 25 to 30% of margins in today's world.
Okay, so really then, these taxes or tariffs that are imposed upon the buying companies that do not have the margins in order to pay this, they have to pass it on to the consumers, or they lose money being in business.
Yes, that's a very good point, Chris. Exactly. So that's one of the problems, and I'll talk about the second one. So the first one is either you pass the tax, the tariff, either you lose money, like you say, so you go out of business. And the second reason, not problem, for those tariffs are that the country that applies the tariffs, it does that to protect the industries from that country. So we take the same example of the engine. So if the engine now costs $1,250 instead of $1,000, then if someone can produce the same engine in Canada at, let's say, $1,100, which is $150 less than the one from the Japan, then you will buy it from Canada. By doing that, even if it's $100 more than the $1,000 that you used to pay, but that money will stay in Canada, will create jobs in Canada, and will grow the economy and the power to purchase of the population.
And that's what the States is going for right now, basically.
That's their deal. That's the point. So let me show you something. They started with, I believe it was because China. Okay? China. It was because of China, right?
There's certain ways that he says absolutely everything, isn't there? He's got his own language.
Yeah. So he wanted to start a trade war before, like in his first term. He didn't have the time, and now he's starting it. One of the reasons that he doesn't like what the government of China does is that they devalue the currency. They devalue their currency, so the exports from China will cost less. Okay.
Sorry, do you mind if we take a pause on that for a second? What exactly does that mean? Like, I was watching a bit of an explanation of it yesterday, and I think I've got it a little bit clearer in my mind. But for the average person out there, I don't know if we really understand what that means. Like, how do you devalue a currency? Like, what exactly does that mean?
So you devalue your currency. One of the reasons, we talked about a lot is printing money.
Yeah.
Printing money. So quantitative easing. And the Chinese do that a lot. Okay. So that's one of the main reasons. Also, you flood the market with your products. Okay. That's the basic reasons how they do it. I'm not an economic expert to detail this, but that's his 2 points, main points. He has more than that we, in an expert conversation we can find, but I'm not an economist. But those are the two things they do.
But on a high level, then basically means my dollar is worth less than your dollar. So you're going to buy more from me because your dollar is worth more. So you're actually buying it for less. And because of that, I'm going to sell more to you. You're going to buy more from me. Right.
Exactly. And my country will have a powerhouse in production, which is a very important thing, especially in a crisis.
Yes.
You understand? So that's why he doesn't like. Trump doesn't like that. Yeah. That China has a lot of leverage over the States because of this manufacturing power. And also that they have the treasury bonds. I believe they have for around 700 or 800 billions, they hold the debt of the United States, of the treasury bonds. So that can trigger some. I don't want to get into that because we're going to go in another. But that also can trigger a really big trouble to the States if they want to sell it, all of it. So the value goes down. I don't want to go there. I want to stay with the tariffs.
Yeah, fair.
So see what I want to show you in this is that his main point that the U.S. imported far more from China. The U.S. imported 440 billions, and China imported from America for 145 billions. That's a 300 billion difference, or 3 times less. Okay, so what that does is you will have to apply a tax and calculate the tax. That's why he's doing he started with 34, then 28, 25, and then 100, 124, and I don't know where he's now.
Changes on a moment by moment basis.
because there's a too much difference. So he took the difference of 300 billion, he divided and then multiplied, and I don't know what calculus he used. So he said, I'm going to tax 125% on you. So he's going to take a lot of billions in to compensate for what China doesn't order from the farmers. And you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the deal. That's the trade war with China.
So basically, if I buy $10 or 10 pieces of goods from you and you only buy one from me, then you're going to charge me 10 times the amount.
Yeah.
on the one good. Yeah.
On the one you buy from me, I'm going to charge you 4 times.
Yeah.
The tax. You understand, which is the difference. So if I buy from you $1, right? I don't know, whatever, $1 a small car, right?
Yeah.
A toy.
Yeah.
I buy 5 from you. You buy 1 from me. You understand?
It's
I'm going to pay $1 for each. So I'm going to pay you $5, and you're going to pay $5 for one.
It's an interesting way to drive your economy at the very least.
Well, I believe he tries to do the same. I believe he tries to devaluate the US dollar. I believe that's what he wants to do, in my opinion.
Right.
And right now it works, eh?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it works.
So it works short term, or it would appear to work short term, or at least that's the goal. What about long term? Is it a viable long term strategy?
The future will tell us, but I'll talk about the difference. Okay. So it is true that the tariffs can provide a temporary relief to the domestic industries that struggle to compete with cheaper imports. You understand? So if you don't buy steel from China, you'll buy steel from the US. It's a higher price, it's a higher quality, whatever. Okay. In the short term, it's true that you can't do anything. What can you do? You have to buy from your own.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So that will work. And so the American steel producer will benefit from reduced price competition because the price is higher than theirs. So it's not a competition, or it's less competition for them, right? So they will take advantage of that. The disadvantages is that consumers will pay more, obviously, right? Because the steel is now a little bit high in price. Even if I believe, and economists believe, some of them, that is better because the money stays in the United States, okay? But it's still a little bit higher. So the consumers will pay a little bit more money. And another problem is retaliation. So the country can retaliate. And if the country retaliates, can cause problems in other areas of your economy. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So they might not retaliate on tariffs, but they might retaliate on, I don't know, chips or memory or computer screens or cheese. Or you understand? I'm not taking China's example, but you get the point. Yeah.
Okay. Well, and it's okay. So that kind of creates a bit of a tit for tat.
Yeah.
Escalation, I think you mentioned earlier. Okay. So what else does that do then?
So when you do, the dangers. I don't know if you remember, Trump decided to postpone for 90 days all the tariffs, the reciprocal tariffs on all countries. But China and Canada. Why? Yeah. Because they're the only two countries that retaliate to the tariffs. The other countries said, we're not going to retaliate. If you're like Hong Kong, whatever, like all of them said, we're not going to retaliate. We're going to work with the states. United States, see what they want, see what we want, and make a deal. So those countries that didn't retaliate, they have a 90 days break. And probably they will negotiate something. So they will not have the 20, 30, 60% of reciprocal tariffs. Okay. That goes with things like, the Europeans impose so much tariffs on the US cars that there's no US car in Europe, or almost none. It's too expensive to buy a US car. And we know the Europeans are better cars, so you understand? So that is a big block. It's the same with offering supply management with the cheese and milk in Canada. You understand? The American companies can't come to Canada because of this supply management. Okay, so there's blocks that Trump wants to take down. That's the reason. So to come back to the tit for tat, the two countries that retaliated are now hit with tariffs. Okay, so why you don't have to retaliate, especially if you're a smaller country, and not as a size, but as the amount of percentage with what you're trading with the United States. You understand? For us, it's a lot. For them, it's not a lot. Canada. You understand?
Yeah.
Because if you do a tit for tat, Chris, it's going to cause supply chain issues, big time issues that will take time to correct. And if you are a smaller country as a percentage of your GDP, like your percentage of trade is higher than the United States, you're in a weakness, right? A weak position. And if you retaliate and you start to have also supply chain problems, then I'm not going to use the word, but it's not good for you.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the reason you don't do tit for tat if you're Canada. You know, that's very simple. You don't do that.
Our consequences are just generally much bigger than we've got more to lose.
Exactly. I really like talking about the consequences. We have a lot to lose. Okay. And even if if the government taxes the imports, that money, they will not go to the people affected. They'll still go to the corrupted politicians. It's very simple. You understand? Like if you tax oil or whatever, you tax cars, right? Or energy, like Doug Ford wanted to do. Let's say instead of Ontario taxing his energy going out, it's Canada that will tax it. An export tax. We call it an export tax. It's different, but it's still a tool for the trade war. So if Canada imposes an export tax of 25%, let's say, and Ontario sends $100 million of electricity per month, then the 25% is $25 million a month that goes to Ottawa. For what? For paying consultants and apps that don't work, paying $250 million for a Arrive scam, which could have been done for $80,000. You understand?
Yeah.
That's a very, very bad thing also for the population. So tit for tat is not good for the economy and is not good for us. We're going to pay more for nothing. That's something that we have to realize that.
So it is a little ironic too that our battle against another country imposing a tax on goods that we're putting out to them, we will reciprocate by taxing our goods going out to them.
In my opinion, it's stupid, okay? If you're United States, I believe you're in a position of power. I'm talking about other countries than the United States. You know, it's very simple. The whole world but the United States. You don't do tit for tat. It's very simple.
Well, yeah. And I mean, really, that kind of boils down to a lot of consequences then for both sides.
Exactly. Right? Exactly, Chris. I like your question. So the first one, the first economic consequences is reduced trade volumes. Yeah. So you trade less between countries. Yeah. You trade less, you make less money, less services, less good things for the population, higher prices. But let's stay in the category less volumes. And if you have less volume, the price automatically goes higher. You understand? It's not only because of the tariffs. If you buy 1,000 units of something, it's cheaper than if you buy 100 units of something. It's very simple math. So that again, reduced trade volumes brings the price up again. You understand? So that's why you don't do tit for tat. Okay, and the second one, it's a slower GDP growth. You know that Canada has the least GDP growth we looked at. Out of the 40 countries, the most developed 40 countries, 1% in the last 10 years, the last decade with the NDP liberals is 1% of GDP growth. And that probably 2% came from immigration. So if we are really, you understand, calculating the real GDP growth probably is negative. Is negative GDP growth, man, if we take out the immigration in the past 10 years. It's amazing.
We're not in a good position on that.
No, you cannot do that. It's the people that do that either are stupid. So, I don't want to insult nobody. I'm just saying, okay, we have a podcast, we can have opinions, or you want to really hurt Canada. Please, Chris, tell me your opinion on that.
Well, I think if the tits keep going in there, then our tats are going to get pretty bad, and it's going to be affecting both of us. And you know, I do think what you say is right. We are in a very weakened position because of a lot of the policies that we've done over the past, let's call it 10 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, economically, we're not a powerhouse right now. We could have been. I guess we could still be, but and hopefully we get back to there. But yeah, I think the U.S. has seen us in a weakened position, and hey, let's pounce on that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
After years of destroying the Canadian economy, man, we'll stop there. But it's disgusting what happened.
Yeah.
So I just want to show you this. I like to bring receipts when I talk about facts. So see, Ireland has 70% increase in real GDP from 2014 to 2024. It's exactly when like the Liberal took over 10 years of Liberals.
Yeah.
This is what happened to Canada. The last place, man.
So we're on the bottom of that list.
The bottom, not like middle or let's do it. No. It's like the bottom. Last after Austria, Germany, Finland, Mexico, UK, Norwich, Chile. I like Chilean people. So I'm really glad they increased 7%. That's good. Australia, France, Switzerland, Japan, Iceland, Sweden, Belgium, Colombia. Colombia. New Zealand, Italy, Estonia. Estonia.
And,
you understand the points.
And where is the US on this list?
Here. 19%. See, so even they are not that high, but they're not at 1%. Just to make clear.
And when you talk about an economy that's big too, 19% is pretty huge.
Yeah, but 19% on their GDP.
Yeah.
Because let's say in other countries have maybe 25%, but on their GDP, which is 10 times lower than the Americans, Yeah. So the 19% of the Americans are better than the Irish right now anyway, because, they started with they're growing the GDP for decades now. You understand?
So there's a few things that happen with that growth domestic. With an increase in your gross domestic product and your GDP, there's some other effects that has as well, though, right? Like it's both positive and negative.
Yeah, one. It's true what you're saying. Of course, inflationary pressure.
Yeah,
the prices will go up. We talked about it. First from the taxes, second from the tit and tat. If we do tit and tat, because of the supply chains.
Starting to love that expression.
Inflationary again. Inflation again. Plus, we mix that with no GDP growth. I just showed you that. Okay, so no GDP growth. That's stagnation plus inflation gives you stagflation, which is worse than recession. So that's what I'm saying. I hope it's only a stagflation now in Canada and not a depression. And as you see, also in Ontario, there's the Honda. There's a document leaked from Honda that they will move a lot of production to the States, and they said no.
Right.
It's not true. That's the first one. And also there was a small was not a truck, it's like a van, electric. It was called Cami. And this also will close. This here. See?
And Cami's in Canada? I've never heard
in Canada, yeah. So hundreds of workers laid off. Ingersoll, Ontario assembly plant as GM halts production. That's April 1st, 11, 2025.
Yeah.
It's only a few days ago. We'll have, so now they close it now, and we'll have reduced production when it reopens in October. They were making these beautiful cars. Like this. See? Electric. So that's what's happening, right?
Yeah.
The Kami plants employs approximately 1,200 workers. Unifor said layoffs will start Monday with some production continuing to May. Okay. So that's what's going on. Inflation rate, it applies here. The inflation, because they're parts and expenses are higher because of that. So you can sell a truck like that for $2 million. You know.
Well, and the automotive sector is definitely kind of at the forefront of alertness for everybody going on here, right? Like it's definitely the big one that everybody's been talking about.
See, 18 hours ago, Honda denies reports that it intends to move auto production out of Canada. This is bad, man. To talk about this April 15, yesterday. Ontario plan operate full capacity for the foreseeable future. And in my opinion, foreseeable future can be 2 weeks. We said that, but we didn't see that. We only saw the 2 weeks in future,
Yeah.
That's the foreseeable future.
And I guess that brings up kind of an interesting point on that too. Like when you're talking about such a big manufacturing sector like the automotive, they can't move to the States quickly and easily. Like you can't just put up a plant in 2 weeks, but you can shut down a plant in 2 weeks.
You got it.
So
you got it.
Yeah,
you got it.
Exactly. If it's not going to have the sales, then
Chris, you saw that.
No.
Exactly. There's like, okay, the U.S. economy will be hurt. It will take 6 months, a year to move okay, I get it. But in the same time, like it took like 2 hours to fire 1,200 people.
Yeah.
So why are we happy that they'll take another year to move it to the States? The damage is already done here.
And in his kind of first State of the Union address, which is a very long drawn-out thing, Trump announced that Honda had just committed to building a plant.
Do you understand?
US, which had been, debunked as complete myth, but
no. It announced its plant, Hyundai, Kia, Honda. I don't know if it's Indiana. We have to look, but this is not the subject of today. But yes, it announces like more than a month ago, almost $1 trillion in investment in the auto sector.
Mm.
So you see, this starts to. I remember when I came to Canada in '96, there was a plant in Boisbriand, GM plant, big plant, a lot of people working there, very good salaries, and the government paid us hundreds of millions to renovate and install the best painting shop in Canada, the most advanced. And 6 months after, GM sold it. And the Quebec government lost like hundreds of millions of dollars. Do you understand?
And that's not an isolated story either. You do hear of things like that a lot. Like a lot, such as with pipelines.
Exactly. And that's my point. Okay. So that's the last point in economic consequences. So there are sectorial winners and losers.
Yeah.
So the manufacturers are definitely a loser sector. Steel, aluminum, autos, and probably softwood will come next. And also pharmaceutical. Okay? Those would be, I don't know, in Canada. The winners supposed to be energy. Let's see, because the prices are going down. They were like C970. They were like 55 2 days ago, a barrel of oil. Now at 60, 62. So it's not that bad. And this is for the economic here. I want to finish with this, Chris. So there's a survey by, I don't know if it was BNN Bloomberg who did the survey, but let's trust them, right?
Yeah.
They're a reputable brand. So BNN Bloomberg said 37% of Canadian auto businesses consider moving to US. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And that goes hand in hand with this. So I talked a lot. I will talk a little bit now. I just want to have your feeling about this, and what do you believe? Do you believe that the auto sector is gone, dead in Canada, or not?
And you know what? I don't think we're done. I honestly, I don't think we are a dead horse yet. And I guess I kind of look at it as if I was one of these automotive manufacturers and I was one of the big wig CEOs, I'd probably be looking at all this and I'd say, what are the long-term effects and ramifications? Do we just kind of put a pause on things for a bit and see where it ends up long-term? Because I would definitely be looking at what it would look like to move into the States in case this is all never going to go away. But on the other hand, it goes away every 2 minutes.
Exactly. That's a good point.
Before I'm investing a few $1 billion in a new plant and 5 years of my life, I want to make sure that there's some hold on this that's going to happen before I make some really bad moves. It might actually even crush me, right? So, Matt, I'll tell you, they're in a spot.
Yep.
Yeah, they really are. Like, he's put a lot of people into a spot.
Yes, Chris. I found something. Do you? This is my point, man. So you understand, 37% of the companies in auto sector think about moving there.
I'm surprised at that well.
Yeah, me too. Exactly. Yeah. I believe that's only the people who really want to answer. Right. And we saw with Honda, they deny that they want to move to the States. We also saw with Kami, 1,200 jobs out of jobs, and maybe forever. Maybe they'll get back 300 in October. Let's see. But look here, one of the worst thing, the worst thing that can happen to the economy is people don't have jobs, right? So this
not a good thing.
Not a good thing, to start with. So see here, this is starting to go back higher on the 7th percentage, and that's in Canada. See? And this here is a correction, and now we'll go up again. This is my prediction. Okay, I know how to read the charts. So about 80%, 80 to 88%, this here will go back up in the next 2 months. In the next 2 to 4 months. 2 to 4 months will be 6.9% or higher. And if that breaks, if in 2 to 4 months, this will be like 7.2, 7.4, we up. We can go to 8, 8.5, 10. We never know. It's like new heights every day. Tang, 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 tang. And that's very, very dangerous. That's what I want to share with you. We are a serious podcast with a lot of experience, and you, Chris, have a lot of experience in construction and real estate, and I have experience overall. So this is what we do this podcast, guys. We like to share real stuff, good stuff with people, and we do it in a way that people understand. So, Chris, this was pretty much it, what I wanted to talk about. And I have one more point before we wrap up or talk about something else, whatever. There's not all the tariffs are, let's say, purely economic. Okay, some tariffs can be because of human being behavior. So let's say a leader can not like another leader and apply tariffs. You understand? It can be also geopolitical. So for political reasons, I'll give you an example. You can apply you can do a trade war, apply tariffs and restrictions and barriers to suffocate a country or a territory, to get something in return before lowering the tariffs or ending the trade war. I want people to understand that. So it's not only economic, and I believe we are in an economic crisis and we have to do trade war. No, there can be a lot of reasons.
The U.S. and the Ukraine would probably be a pretty good example of that.
You understand?
Holding military aid for.
Chris, you got it.
Minerals.
That's exactly the point. That's exactly what was my point. When you put tariffs and sanction on Russia, that's what it is, a trade war. That's a trade war in his beauty, in his splendor. Okay. So I hope this was informative and easy to understand and simple, Chris.
Clear as mud, Dragos. Clear as mud.
I love it, man.
Yeah, we're in for some interesting times ahead. Well, listen, sir, do you have anything else you wanted to mention before we wrap this up for these good folks?
No, I have all my points. I really appreciated this, and I like the way the style we did this podcast. So we're gonna continue like this.
Well, thank you, sir. I like having you on here. I like being on the other side of the pole here. So, all right. Well, listen, friends, we're gonna call this a wrap then. Another episode of my podcast hub. I'm Chris Adet. This was Dragos Roxandu, reminding you that while our political and trade relationships with the U.S. may be less than ideal right now, hey, we got better bacon, and their best hockey players are typically actually our hockey players. They're Canadian. So don't forget to subscribe. Don't miss out on our next deep dive, and be sure to tell your friends. Catch you later.
See you guys.